Continuing with 4's Big Brother night, the world is gripped by the contagious bug.
María José Galera.
By the time the British contestants walked into the Big Brother house, the format had already taken Holland, Germany, Spain and America by storm. Each version reflected its own culture. Huge crowds gathered outside the German house and watched the contestants having oral sex. In Spain, the household rebelled against Big Brother, and 2 of the contestants turned out to be prostitutes. And while the housemates in Britain and America stayed celibate,
would you guys masturbate here?
The Americans couldn't stop talking about it.
So sexually frustrated.
And here in Britain, there have been a couple of near misses. But it was in the first version of Big Brother that the Dutch audience watched in their millions to see how Bart and Sabine's relationship would develop.
I think in Holland, when people were flirting with each other, there was, at some level, an intention to carry that through to something. It may not necessarily mean actual sex, but there was a serious intention behind the flirtation. Here, I think the flirtation is much, much more jokey.
Have you not given any of your girlfriend's massages, Tom?
Usually turns into sex before you're halfway through.
There is a great deal of touching. There's a higher incidence of the erotic touch than I would have expected.
I'm very sweaty and unpleasant.
Just the way I love you.
The fact that the British haven't indulged in any sex that we're aware of doesn't surprise me particularly. I think it would surprise the nation in general that the British were like that. We're not well known for sex. We're more well known for hot water bottles.
Gonna try one, Mel?
Yeah. Because they are so small, it's like ridiculous.
This is very much a work environment for these people. They're trying to get £70,000. And Mel uses the flirtation.
Sometimes I realise he's been looking at me for like 5 minutes.
She understands how sex is a powerful tool in the workplace, if used properly. She is New Woman personified because she's using it properly, but not in a way that the men really understand what's going on. They're floundering around.
Can't do this to every boy that leaves, can I?
Yes, you can.
It's a paradigm, really, for the new workplace.
In Spain, the idea of the working girl took on a different meaning. Audiences watched Maria José fall in love, not knowing that in her former life, she'd been working as a prostitute.
In the Spanish house, there were 2 prostitutes, and that might be surprising in a Catholic country. But Spain takes its religion realistically and seriously in a way, but lightly. It knows the facts of life and lives with them. Up here, however, our Catholicism has the worst of all worlds in Britain. We've inherited the sort of cold-blooded northernness with some of the hypocrisy and puritanism of Protestantism.
María José Galera.
In the first Spanish eviction, the public voted Maria José out. But even though Jorge had only known her a week, he wasn't about to let her leave the house empty-handed.
I think that community felt a great sense of group solidarity, to commitment to one another, and a passion about the concept of the group and relationships.
While the Spanish were characterized by their love affairs, the Americans could only talk about how much they wanted one.
I haven't in 25 years. My God, I'm a virgin. Hello. I mean, come on. How pathetic am I?
Brittany sees in her virginity the whole kind of moral scope of herself as a person, and everything hangs on maintaining her virginity, her self-definition.
Are you going to tell anyone about your thing?
Maybe I'll tell people, like, after they.
And Jordan was a stripper, and
if I come right
very
out,
guiltily so.
You know, I really, really want to make my parents proud of me.
I'm telling my parents that I was a stripper for 2 years it's like the biggest slap in the face. My parents totally accepted.
Everyone is able to articulate and describe themselves in terms of their own victimhood.
And it was just one of the most beautiful things in the world.
They had a very kind of narrow moral sense of themselves, which they seem to have picked up from kind of this issue-based television in which everyone has problems which they need to air.
Those problems came to a head when it looked as if Jordan, the ex-stripper, was going to start a relationship with heartthrob Josh.
What do you find physically attractive about me?
I'm attracted to your posture.
My posture?
Your posture.
How was my posture?
How you carry yourself.
23-year-old Josh had come into the American house with high hopes of romance.
You remember licking me?
Remember what?
Licking me?
I know I did not lick you.
Ex-stripper Jordan seemed one possibility.
I do remember licking you, however.
But 25-year-old virgin Brittany seemed to be making a play for him too. But the prospect of romance died when the two girls accused Josh of flirting.
Jordan and I sat up all night, kind of comparing notes.
And they talked.
That you've been kind of trying to bag both of us.
And they
Crawl into bed
talked.
with me and rub my leg and my side. It's like, what the f*** are you doing?
And
But I
they
feel like
talked.
you were kind of doing stuff under the table with both of us.
I think it was very impressive of the Americans to be able to find a 25-year-old virgin and then, with her friend, gang up on poor Josh, who was only doing what any man would do under the circumstances and flirt with the maximum amount of people.
And you have, like, the hots for Jordan.
I've never seen anybody really talk themselves out of sex better than those two stupid girls.
And you didn't just end up in the situation, you created it, Josh.
Okay. They were happy to endlessly talk about their particular perceptions, their particular values, their particular ways of looking at the world, and also the extent to which they thought these were right. They were almost proselytizing each other, which led to a lot of analysis paralysis. And it was sort of psychoanalysis paralysis in that case.
I hate it when it does that.
Even a massage needed a group discussion first.
Karen, is it bad to have a massage like that?
Why?
Like under, I think he should be over my shirt. Don't
Oh,
you think?
under your
Editing,
shirt?
isn't that weird?
They are drowning in the spirit of being moral, of being politically correct, of offending nobody. Everybody seems to be typecast and therefore stereotype in the end, so I lost interest immediately. It's the only edition I know so far that bores, because it's not free. It smells like bourgeois.
In contrast, the Germans had a much freer attitude to sex. From the moment Kirsten paired up with Alex, sex seemed inevitable. But maybe not. Since leaving the house, Kirsten's version of events is that what the television audience took to be sex was something very different.
Because they had no possibility to communicate in private and they had no pencils, they would take the blanket over their heads and write letters on their thighs. So the movement everybody meant to see as oral sex or whatever was in fact the movement of the arm when they wrote these letters to communicate about sex.
Outside the house, huge crowds gathered to watch the past week's events being transmitted on the video wall. But the housemates could hear what was being transmitted, and that started to change their behavior.
Alex did hear that there was being sex reported in the house because there was this video wall sound. Kerstin replied to that and said, so then we can have sex. And the second act of sex was oral sex. But it was inspired by the fact that they said they have made it up anyway, that this was sex.
It wasn't the only time that crowds outside put pressure on the contestants inside. Manu, a 23-year-old law student, was seen by the public to be scheming and devious. They were about to take their revenge.
Manu had heard these yells, Manu out, kill that bitch, and so on. They showed her weeping in the garden. So the mass outside could see the immediate consequences of their actions because Manu was destroyed.
Seinem Abwechseln die ganze Masse, ja, schreit Manu raus.
The phenomenon of a fascist mass gathering outside of this container and really wanting people to be devastated, that was uniquely German, sadly German.
In a country still recovering from 30 years of fascist rule under Franco, the Spanish household refused to obey the diktats of Big Brother. They made a pact to nominate every member of the household equally, so they were all up for eviction, and it was left to the public to decide who would be evicted.
The Spanish, I think, would be different on this one dimension called power distance. It's about a reaction to authoritarianism, and it might have something to do with the history of the 20th century, i.e. this long period of Franco government and this right-wing dictatorship. And now the young people are very much anti-authoritarian. And the recent figures that come out looking at cultural comparisons suggest the Spanish would be more reacting to a Big Brother type figure. This is the Franco of the past, if you like, and therefore they'd be more likely to challenge that.
It took the Spanish just 3 days to unite against Big Brother. 3 days into their version, the Americans couldn't even decide if they liked each other.
You know, I'm really on the fence about you. I can't tell if I like you or not.
Well, don't worry about it. It happens to everybody. But
Really?
I don't
Like, sometimes I like you and sometimes I don't.
Well, it's good. That's why they put us all in here. And if it was going to be
Yeah.
the Brady Bunch, we wouldn't be here. That would be boring.
The Brady Bunch was the last thing it was going to be.
Your reality is just all white, and that's your worldview.
It was William who brought America's most sensitive issue into the House and rammed it straight down the throats of his fellow housemates.
And you went on to say, and I couldn't believe I drove my car there, and those people, they broke into my
I
car.
never say those people. That is a lie.
I think that
As a former member of the Nation of Islam and the new Black Panther movement, William's credentials as a race warrior were perfect.
She is more important to me than anything, and you telling me she's a fucking token black friend pisses me off.
well,
She is one of my best friends, and I don't want you to
understand.
say that.
Well, that's what you think, right? But
You know
what you
what?
don't
Just stop
understand...
talking, okay?
what you
Because
don't
you're irritating the
You
out
want
of
to
me. You don't know what
engage in this
you're talking about.
conversation. You want to engage in this conversation, and you're only worried about your feelings, right? You don't think about the things that you say when that can be offensive, but I'm not the type of person that's going to sit there and cry and whine and do all of that.
William really represents America's symbol of prejudice and discrimination. And he represents his rebellion and his reaction to that in many ways constructively, really. We need to hear what William has to say.
My point is not to fight racism.
Let's rewind
I said
the
my
tape.
point is to change the image of the black male. Completely different than racism.
But it just seems to me that if you're gonna be standing there,
When you're confronted by somebody like William, it's scary as hell. I can see my stereotypes coming up.
One representative of black males, is a human being.
But deep down inside, in my soul, I was raised with prejudice against blacks.
I don't know what it's like to be black, and I'm sure you guys have had a lot more injustices, but I've been the foreign one in the country. I've been the one that had the problem to communicate. I mean, I have been the minority.
Right. But I'm always the minority.
In the UK, the issue of race has only been raised once.
Because I've got, like, just dying of wit, people would wonder how comes I've got that, and... I think you're a drug dealer, you mean? I'm not, no, I'm not No, they don't think I'm a drug dealer. I'm a...
The token black person.
No.
I do.
Do you think so?
Totally.
I'm proud of you for saying that, but no, I don't. 'Cause I'm already...
Over here, we're much more conciliatory in our approach. We're much more furtive about race. And I think that had somebody like William been chosen for the Big Brother household, it would have created conflict right from day one.
So I suggest you shut the hell up.
And I suggest you watch how you talk to me. So don't start writing checks that your ass can't cash.
I think there is a William character in the UK, but it's much less likely that he'd end up on television. I think in America the idea of a kind of of a strong, strident black man is much more firmly located in the culture.
The first person to be banished from the house is William.
Yes. Later. I'm out.
Bye.
A staggering 83% of American viewers voted to eject their most controversial character from the house, while German viewers turned their controversial character into a national hero. Zlatko was an unemployed mechanic. His parents were immigrants from Eastern Europe, and his views were completely at odds with his liberal-minded housemates.
Zlatko combined two things the Germans found most appealing. First, he was very, very simple.
Der war William Shakespeare.
So they loved that he didn't know anything about Shakespeare or the difference between homosexual and heterosexual. So there was something to make fun about all the time.
Wenn du mich jetzt fragst, was der alles gemacht hat, keine Ahnung. Ob der Roman geschrieben hat, ob der Filme schon mitgemacht hat, oder Dokumentation, oder weiß ich nicht, keine Ahnung.
Every movement of him was funny. Every utterance of emotion was funny.
Aua.
It is appealing because he was the lowest character ever seen on German TV.
I think what Zlatko represents in a German household is the ultimate boorish man who wasn't particularly keen on gay people.
Adam und Eva, Mann und Frau. Der hat ja nicht hingeschrieben Adam und Adam 2.
Although he was voted out of the house, he did become immensely popular and, you know, signed up all sorts of deals left, right and center. In German culture, there's a large body of opinion which agrees with what Zlatko stands for, but feels uncomfortable about articulating those opinions. And therefore, I think they quite admire the fact that somebody was standing up and saying those things.
But Zlatko wasn't nominated for eviction by his housemates because they didn't like his views. It was because they resented the close friendship he'd formed with 36-year-old Jürgen.
Die Zuschauer haben entschieden. Zlatko, du wirst die WG verlassen.
Nein. I think what Jürgen felt for Zlatko was a tremendously genuine, platonic love for another man, which had absolutely no sexual overtones. You find it in the British public schools. Up until the age of 18, boys can have very strong but non-sexual friendships towards one another. You found it a lot in ancient Greece. I'm pleased to say it seems to be alive and well in parts of Germany.
Nevertheless, Zlatko was evicted. All the households have used the nomination process to break up close friendships. But the real experts in using the nomination process have been the British.
The British are being just absolutely foul, although in the most beautifully kind, nice way. They pretend that they really want their opponents to go home to their families and their jobs.
I would like to nominate Craig because he's got a business back home and it'd be nice to know how that's going on. I think he's a bit worried about that.
Whereas we know perfectly well they've just got to get rid of them in order to get the £70,000.
And Thomas, so he could see his family. Last week he got nominated and just saw them. It'd be nice for him to actually make some contact with them.
So there was this element of betrayal, you know, that was at the base of this experience. I think that in some ways would have brought out the worst in people, and I think it did in Nick. I think it provided exactly what he appears to do very well, betray.
The conclusion I've come to, the two people will be Sada and Catherine. Catherine.
Nick might forget the names of his victims, but he turned routine acts of betrayal
I've gone blank. Sada, number one, and...
into an art form.
Caroline, sorry. Caroline.
What was particularly British about Nick, perhaps, is that he made his unwitting victims fall in love with him as he watched them suffer their fate.
If I didn't care, I wouldn't be in here.
Yeah.
And if I wanted you out, I would not be in here either. So, you know, we're here to support you.
Nick is a character that hugely fascinates me, of course, because I don't think that the most interesting characters in the house survive. Mostly it's the simplest characters where everybody can somehow relate to that survive.
Always remember when, you know, a door closes, another window opens, and you're going to have
The
place.
first association I had when I saw him was Nick Leeson, the broker who cheated everybody.
This is an opportunity. Yes, it hasn't worked out, but where a door closes, another window opens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're completely right, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your, for your support.
But it's that kind of people who talk about their private lives with Princess Diana. So Hewitt is a character like him. There's a stereotype of the mean British man who is half intelligent and half clever and takes all sorts of means to come to a good result.
And you're a very sensitive and supportive man, and I appreciate your care and humility.
Thank you.
But it wasn't just his talent for betrayal that made Nick powerful. He had our most unique institution on his side, the class system.
I've seen everyone that's been the two, and I've got each right each time. I think you understand.
Yeah.
I hope so, like.
Nick was decidedly different from the other folks in terms of class, being educated, privileged, powerful. You're educated and privileged in this country, and that's where you get your power. Whereas in other countries like the United States, it's money.
Just wait until Friday.
Well, can I ask a question?
Why?
The lovely thing about him is that he seems to have convinced himself that he's upper class, or at least upper middle class, which he simply isn't.
Shoes and white socks that you don't do.
Darren notices quite early on that he wears white socks, and the fact that he went to Gordonston Public School is not enough to make the man out to be some sort of toff. But he thinks he is, and even more hilariously, pretty much everybody else in the house also seemed to think that he was a cut above, and they were extra specially betrayed, they felt, because this personification of the leadership ethic should have turned out to have been such an unutterable shit.
You have shown people names to other people.
When they finally realised that Nick had been conspiring to cheat, the group couldn't forgive him for breaching the British sense of fair play.
Really lost totally all respect in you, you know what I mean? I thought you were a clever guy.
Most people in this house have a lot of respect for you, Nick, and Caroline used to sing your praises at night time, and at the end of the day, I'm gutted.
We sort of like the villain, but more than the villain, we love the failure. And the very instant that Nick was thrown out, he won over the nation.
It's going to be hell for you out there. You can't just walk out. Okay? It's something that's gone wrong, but you can't walk out.
I've made a mistake.
Once we'd seen that he'd cried, broken down, and lost, we knew that we could love him without guilt.
Like all things in, in retrospect, it was an error.
The thing that makes the British household completely unique is that in moments of great stress, everybody says,
"You want my cup of tea?"
Yeah, I love a cup of tea.
It was Second World War stuff. They've just been through an extremely difficult and very unpleasant time, and they've had to do some really very unpleasant things, and I think the best thing for everybody is a jolly nice cup of tea.
Relive last night's climax with some unseen footage next here on 4.
Your chance to bid for a piece of TV history. T4 is auctioning off the contents of the Big Brother house. The beds they slept in, the sofas they argued on, it's all got to go. You could own a piece of classic TV memorabilia that includes the famous chair. The Big Brother auction, Sunday on T4.